My husband forced me to divorce him and kicked me out. My mother-in-law threw a broken bag at me and screamed, "Take your trash." When I opened it, I was stunned. A savings account with $500,000 and the house deed in my name. Can you imagine spending 7 years building a life, pouring your heart, your youth, and every single penny into a marriage, only to have the man you loved throw divorce papers in your face and tell you to leave with nothing? My world was shattered, but what truly blew my mind was when my cruel mother-in-law, the woman who had just publicly shamed me, handed me a tattered bag, unleashing a secret that would flip my entire tragedy on its head. It all started with the sharp, almost violent click of Liam's pen as he set it down on our sleek glass table. Outside, a Chicago thunderstorm raged, mirroring the chaos inside me. Rain lashed against the windows, cold and melancholic, just like my soul in that moment. I sat there, paralyzed on our expensive leather sofa, the divorce papers a cruel joke in front of me. Liam's fresh signature seemed to mock every single one of my 7 years as his wife. My throat was tight, a suffocating lump preventing any sound from escaping. I looked at him, the man I'd fallen for at 20, the man I hadn't hesitated to sacrifice a promising career for, just to support him unconditionally. He still looked handsome, elegant, but the gaze he fixed on me now was utterly alien, so icy it sent shivers straight to my bones. This wasn't the tender husband who'd held me close every night, whispering promises. This man was a judge, an executioner, discarding me like some old, useless object. "Sign it." His voice was flat, devoid of any warmth. "This house is in my name. The car, too. You came here with nothing, and you'll leave with nothing. It's just simpler that way. As a gesture for our years together, I'll give you enough money to rent a small room and start looking for a new job." Every word was a twisting knife in my bleeding heart. 2/3 of my life savings had gone into building this home with him. The luxury car he drove, that was a gift I had financed with my annual bonus. And now, he had the audacity to claim everything was his, that I was a parasite and I deserved nothing? Why? I managed to croak out, my voice raw, trembling. "Liam, why are you doing this? What did I do wrong?" He smirked, a contemptuous smile I'd never seen before, a stranger's smile. "You did nothing wrong, Jessica. You just don't fit into my life anymore." He stood, smoothing his designer tie. "My sister, Sophia, came back from London a few months ago. She introduced me to new people, new opportunities. Opportunities that don't include a frugal wife like you. Sophia, Liam's younger sister, the one I'd loved like my own, the one I'd emptied my savings for, financing her 4 years studying abroad so she wouldn't face any hardship. And now, the first gift she gave me upon her return was this agonizing betrayal." Just then, the living room door burst open. Mrs. Helen Carter, my mother-in-law, swept in. She was in silk pajamas, fanning herself with an air of casual indifference, as if she hadn't just walked into the wreckage of her son's marriage. Her eyes flicked from me to the divorce papers, and her shrill voice rang out triumphantly. "What are you waiting for, girl? Sign it. A barren woman like you is just taking up space. 7 years and not a single heir for this family. What are you clinging to?" Her words were a bucket of ice water, drenching my already raw pain. Children. That was my deepest sorrow. We'd seen countless doctors. They said we were both healthy, that it just wasn't the right time. Liam had always comforted me, swearing he didn't care. Now I saw the truth. It was all a lie, a convenient excuse to discard me. I looked up at her, my eyes pleading for a last flicker of humanity, but I met only an icy stare. "Don't call me Mom," she sneered. "I have no daughter-in-law as useless as you. My son, Liam, has a brilliant future ahead. He needs a woman who's his equal, who knows how to give him children, not a burden who only lives at his expense." That was it. The dam broke. Pain and indignation clawed their way up my throat. I sprang to my feet, tears streaming down my face. "A burden? You say I'm a burden? Who paid for the majority of this house? Where did the money for Sophia's studies come from? Who took care of you all when you were sick? I never held anything over your heads, but that doesn't mean I did nothing. My mother-in-law was stunned for a moment. Then she scoffed. Oh, you can talk a good game. Where's the proof? The deed for the house is in my son's name. You gave the money to his sister voluntarily, and now you're making demands? How shameless. She turned to Liam. What are you waiting for? Throw her out. If she stays here one more minute, she's just dirtying this house. As if he'd been waiting for that command, Liam strode over, grabbed my arm, and dragged me toward the door. My already packed suitcase sat in the entryway, a grim prophecy. Get out. My patience with you is gone. He shoved me, and I tumbled onto the cold, hard porch floor. The rain continued its relentless assault, burning painfully on my face. I looked back through the sheeting rain, at the man who had been my husband, at the woman who had been my mother-in-law, the people I had loved most, now gazing at me with cold, cruel eyes. The heavy iron door began to swing shut. In that exact moment, my mother-in-law reappeared, holding an old, torn canvas bag, the one I used for the farmer's market. She hurled it at me. It landed next to a dirty puddle. Take this trash of yours with you too, and get out of my sight. Her voice shrieked as the door slammed shut, leaving me alone in the darkness, the rain, and absolute despair. I sat there, letting the rain soak me, my tears indistinguishable from the water on my face. I had no idea where to go. I had lost everything. But, perhaps out of a stubborn curiosity, a last, desperate spark of hope, my trembling hand reached out. I picked up the torn bag she'd thrown. I opened it. What I found inside stopped my breath, paralyzing me completely, and opened a new, unimaginable chapter in my life. The thunderstorm hadn't let up. I was huddled under the awning of a closed shop, soaked and freezing. My small suitcase lay abandoned beside me. In my hands, I clutched the tattered canvas bag, the only thing my mother-in-law had given me. How long had I been there? An hour? 2? Time was meaningless. Only the gnawing pain and emptiness remained. My mind reeled with unanswered questions. Why? Why had it all come to this? What had I done to deserve such a tragic end? 7 years isn't forever, but it's long enough to invest your entire youth, your faith, your hopes, into a marriage. I once believed I was the luckiest woman alive to have Liam. When we met, he was just a boy from a small town, new to Chicago, chasing a dream. He was kind, earnest, with a smile that felt like sunshine. I was a fresh college graduate, running a small fashion boutique. Our love blossomed naturally. He had nothing, but he had a sincere heart. He promised me, Jessica, I have nothing now, but I promise I'll work hard to give you the best life. I won't let you suffer. I believed him. I believed in us. We married in a simple ceremony. No lavish cars or fancy restaurants, just the blessings of friends and family. We lived in a tiny rental, life was tough, but we laughed a lot. My boutique chain flourished, growing to 3 designer shops with loyal clients and steady income. I shared everything with Liam, every income statement, every business plan. I wanted him to see us as a team, building our future together. Once my business was stable, I stepped back, delegating management to my employees, keeping only an oversight role. I wanted to be a real wife, to cook for him, to cherish our home. Then I thought about his family. His parents lived in their small town in an old, rundown house. Every visit broke my heart. I suggested to Liam we build them a new home. He was embarrassed, said he didn't have the money. I smiled, took his hand. My money is your money. Your parents are my parents. Let's take care of them together. I pulled out almost $500,000, all my savings at the time, and sent it to build them a solid 3-story house. When it was finished, all the relatives gathered to congratulate us. Everyone praised what wonderful children we were. My mother-in-law, Mrs. Helen, held my hand, her voice thick with emotion. Jessica, thank you, my child. I never thought I'd live in such a beautiful house. I felt so happy, thinking my sincerity had finally been rewarded. And then there was Sophia, Liam's younger sister. Bright, a good student, she dreamed of studying abroad. Her family couldn't afford it. Seeing the longing in her eyes, I couldn't stand it. "Let me handle this," I told Liam. "Consider it an investment in her future." He hesitated, then agreed. For 4 years, I sent Sophia money every month, not a cent less. I gave up vacations, luxuries my friends enjoyed, all so my sister-in-law could achieve her dream. I thought she'd return grateful, the pride of the family. I was so incredibly wrong. Liam started changing about 2 years ago, after he became sales manager. He came home late, business trips piled up, home dinners grew rarer, and tender words vanished. He obsessed over his appearance, buying expensive suits and watches. I wondered if the work pressure was changing him, or if his new environment was alienating him. I tried to reignite our flame, cooking his favorite meals, dressing up, but all I got was indifference, sometimes irritation. "Don't bother me. I'm tired." That was his most common phrase. I was hurt, but I never suspected another woman. I clung blindly to our love, to our 7 years, until Sophia returned. She was completely transformed. No longer the modest student. She came back with a modern, fashionable look, and a mindset I couldn't grasp. "Jessica," she'd said, "a woman nowadays needs to know how to enjoy life, how to invest in herself. If you keep hiding in the kitchen, Liam will get sick of you." I just smiled, thinking she was joking, not realizing it was my first warning. Sophia often invited Liam to nightclubs, to luxurious parties, for making contacts. Initially, he refused, but then he went more and more often. He'd come home smelling of alcohol and another woman's perfume. When I asked, he'd yell, "Don't be paranoid. This is work. These are social contacts. Understand?" And then, today, the inevitable. He discarded me with that unbearable cruelty. "You don't fit in anymore." 7 years of sacrifice, 7 years of effort, all reduced to those 4 words. Another hot tear rolled down my cheek. Was it a mistake to love someone too much? To sacrifice myself too much for his family? Or was it a mistake to trust too much in the word marriage? The rain had finally eased, leaving a fine drizzle. The city gleamed, bright and glossy, but my heart was a dark abyss. Where would I go? I couldn't go to my mother like this. I didn't want to worry her. I looked at the torn canvas bag in my hand, the only thing they'd given back. I bitterly assumed it held a few old clothes, treated like a beggar until the very end. But before I completely fell apart, I had to check what was inside. It was an unconscious action, a final curiosity before closing a bitter chapter. With trembling hands, I opened the bag. What appeared before my eyes left me stunned, unable to believe it. It wasn't just a secret. It was a truth that could change everything. Inside that old, worn canvas bag, there were no crumpled clothes. Instead, sitting neatly on top, was a brand new, dark blue leather savings passbook. I pulled it out, dazed, my hands still trembling from cold and shock. Which bank was this? Why was it here? I'd never owned one. With extreme disbelief, I opened the first page. Account holder, Jessica Miller. My name. But it was the number underneath that made my heart seize. $20 million. $20 million. I rubbed my eyes, looked again. 20 million. The number was an electric shock, jolting me, erasing all the fatigue, pain, and despair. Only shock and incredible amazement remained. Where did this money come from? Why would my mother-in-law, a woman who'd always belittled me, who counted every cent, put such an enormous sum in this bag and give it to me? It was illogical, absurd, maybe a mistake or a new trap. Thousands of questions spun in my head. Trembling, I searched the rest of the bag. Under the passbook was a bundle of documents, neatly protected in a clear plastic sleeve. I pulled them out. Property deed. But the address wasn't the house I'd built for his parents, nor the mansion Liam had just thrown me out of. This address read, Mansion number 27, Astor Street, Gold Coast, Chicago. The Gold Coast, one of the most expensive, prestigious areas in the city. And what made me freeze again was the owner section. It listed only one name, clearly and distinctly, Jessica Miller. Along with the deed were the purchase contract and payment receipts. All settled. The mansion had been paid for in cash 6 months ago, and it belonged entirely to me. My mind went blank. All logic evaporated. A savings book with $20 million and a luxury mansion, all in my name, handed over in a torn bag by the very mother-in-law who had just humiliated me. Was this a dream? Was I hallucinating from shock? I pinched myself hard. The stinging pain was real. At the very bottom of the bag, there was something else. A cheap old flip phone and a power bank. Taped to the back of the phone was a carefully sealed letter. No writing on the outside. My heart hammered in my chest. I knew the answer to this insane situation had to be in that letter. Trembling, I broke the seal and unfolded the paper. A few lines in careful, familiar handwriting. It was Mrs. Helen's. Jessica, my child, when you read these lines, you will probably hate me. You will hate this whole family to the bone. I am sorry. I am sorry for all the cruel words, all the merciless acts I did to you today. But my child, please believe me. Everything was an act. A painful act that I felt forced to perform to protect you. To protect what is yours. I froze. An act? I discovered the true face of Liam and Sophia a long time ago. Liam has not only been unfaithful to you, but he has conspired with his mistress to siphon funds from your own company. And Sophia, the daughter I love most, is not only ungrateful but pushed her brother to rob you of your belongings and put you on the street to clear the way for his mistress. I overheard their conversation. They planned to wait until they had emptied your accounts, then invent an excuse for the divorce and leave you with nothing. How was this possible? How had I noticed nothing? I tried to talk them out of it, but it was no use. Greed has blinded them. I knew if I openly took your side, they would become more cautious and act faster. I had no other choice but to play the role of the evil mother-in-law, to take their side so they would get careless and believe I was with them. Only in this way did I have time to help you secretly. The $20 million is just a small portion of my liquid assets that I moved into a secret account for you. I transferred everything to your name. I also bought the mansion on the Gold Coast with this money. I wanted you to have a place to flee to, a safe refuge when the storm comes. I knew Liam would want to keep your house, so I had to prepare a safer escape route for you. I made sure all the property papers are in your name. He will never be able to touch them. My world spun. Today, when I threw you out, my heart broke into 1,000 pieces. But I had to do it, Jessica. I had to let them see that you really left with nothing, that you were thrown out in absolute humiliation. Only then would they be satisfied, drop their guard, and show their true face. This is a chess game and we must win. This phone is for us to communicate secretly. Don't use your old phone. They could be monitoring it. Keep playing the role of the pitiful woman who has been abandoned by her husband and has nothing. Let them keep playing their game. I will help you collect all the evidence of their crimes. When the time comes, we will deliver the final blow. Child, be strong. The show has only just begun. Your mother. I folded the letter. Tears streamed down my cheeks, but this time, they weren't tears of pain or despair. They were tears of emotion, gratitude, and a fierce hope reborn from the ashes. My mother-in-law, the woman I thought was cruel and cold, turned out to be the one who loved and protected me the most. She didn't choose direct confrontation, but a thornier, more painful path, accepting the role of the villain to protect me in the shadows. Such a bold plan, such immense sacrifice. I honestly couldn't believe it. I looked at the savings book and the property deed again. They were no longer just material things. They were love, trust, the weapons my mother-in-law had handed me. I dried my tears, my gaze hardening, becoming sharp. I will not collapse. I will not let my mother-in-law's sacrifice be in vain. I would continue to play this part. I would act until the final curtain. Liam, Sophia, enjoy it while you can, because your happy times are coming to an end. My mother-in-law's letter was like a breath of fresh air that rekindled the flame of hope and the will to fight in me. I was no longer a miserable victim huddled in the rain. I had a goal, a plan, and above all, an incredibly strong and wise ally. I stowed the savings book, the deed, and the letter carefully at the bottom of the canvas bag, taking only the cheap phone my mother-in-law had prepared. I had to get out of there quickly, find a safe place to begin my act. I couldn't go to my mother's right away. If Liam and Sophia got suspicious, they would look for me there. I needed a temporary hideout, a place no one could imagine. Suddenly, I remembered Karen, a woman I had helped when she first came to Chicago, struggling to build a life. She lived alone in a small apartment in Englewood, quite far from the city center and completely disconnected from my social circle. I dialed her number, praying it was still the right one. "Hello, Jessica? Is that you? My goodness, how long has it been? How are you?" Karen's voice was as warm and sincere as ever. I forced my voice to sound trembling, pitiful. "Karen, I have a problem. Could I stay with you for a few days?" Karen didn't ask many questions, just said firmly, "Of course. Come over immediately. Still the same address. I'll be expecting you." Karen's apartment wasn't big, but it was tidy and cozy. When she saw me, soaked and disheveled, she gasped. She quickly found me dry clothes and made me a hot ginger tea. "My God, what happened? Where's Liam?" I sat, clutching the warm mug, and began to tell her my story. But I told only half the truth, the painful half my mother-in-law had designed for me. I recounted how Liam and his sister had betrayed me, forced me into a divorce, and thrown me out with nothing. I cried, and this time, the tears weren't entirely an act. They were the culmination of frustration over 7 years of sacrifice. I deliberately omitted any mention of my mother-in-law and the enormous fortune. Karen was furious. She slammed the table, cursing Liam's family. "What villains! How can such vile people exist? Don't worry, Jessica. Stay here with me. I'm not rich, but you won't lack for food. Don't be afraid." Karen's kindness touched me deeply. I knew I had found the perfect hideout. That night, I used the new phone with its prepaid card and sent my mother-in-law a message. "I am safe." A few minutes later, she replied, "Good. Stay calm. They have already started." And so it was. The next morning, as I helped Karen clean, a social media post caught my eye. Sophia, my sister-in-law, had published a status update full of hints. "Finally, the sky is clearing. There are burdens that don't belong to us, and it's better to let them go early to make room for better things." Along with the text was a photo of her and Liam in a luxury cafe. Both were smiling broadly, as if they'd shed a great burden. The post quickly garnered hundreds of likes and comments. Friends asked, "What are you celebrating?" Sophia didn't answer directly, just left smiling and mysterious emojis, fueling curiosity. I knew this was her first move, a test of public opinion. They wanted to create an image that our marriage ended amicably, that I had left of my own accord. But their act didn't end there. That same afternoon, my mother-in-law sent me a short audio recording via the secret phone. It was a dinner conversation between her and Liam. "Mom!" Liam's voice sounded haughty, magnanimous. "I settled things with Jessica. She was reasonable, signed voluntarily, and left. I even gave her some money. Didn't want her to go empty-handed." "Better that way," Mrs. Helen replied, maintaining her role as the disinterested mother. "Settle it quickly and focus on other things. Sophia introduced you to that girl, right? The director of the modeling agency. Take the chance. A man can't be without a woman by his side." "Yes, Mom, I know. The girl isn't bad. Good family, pretty, intelligent. She will surely help me a lot in my career." I listened to the recording with an ice-cold heart. Barely a day after he'd thrown me out, he was already planning his future with another woman. And my mother-in-law's acting performance was masterful. She had skillfully brought up the topic, letting Liam reveal his plans. The director of the modeling agency. So that was the opportunity to change his life Sophia had mentioned. My marriage wasn't even officially over, and they were already paving the way for another woman, one who was more appropriate, with a better social position. That night I couldn't sleep. I kept replaying my mother-in-law's letter. "Liam has conspired with his mistress to siphon funds from your own company." My company. Even though I had delegated management, all important financial decisions and large transactions required my signature. How could Liam take money? Unless there was a mole. Someone inside my company. A name suddenly popped into my head, sending a cold shiver down my spine. Megan, my head of accounting. Megan was quiet, meticulous, had been with me for 5 years. I trusted her completely, had entrusted all accounting and finances to her. But I remembered hearing gossip recently that Megan had bought a luxury condo, something impossible on her salary. At the time, I thought her family probably had money, didn't think much of it. But now, everything seemed incredibly suspicious. I immediately turned on my laptop and logged into the company's internal management system. I went to the finance section, checking all transactions from the last 6 months. My heart pounded. I checked hundreds of transactions. First, nothing seemed abnormal. All expenses had invoices and receipts. But then I paused at several payments under the purpose marketing costs to a consulting firm with a very strange name, Northstar LLC. The payments weren't huge but significant sums, over $100,000 each, and they repeated monthly. The strange thing was, I had never heard of this firm and had not approved any strategy in connection with it. I quickly searched for Northstar LLC online. The result left me stunned. The company had been founded only 6 months ago, and the legal representative was none other than Liam Carter, my husband. Everything was clear. He had founded a shell company and teamed up with Megan to create fake service contracts, thus legalizing the transfer of funds from my company into his own pocket. Such a refined, such a cruel plot. He had not only betrayed me emotionally, but he was robbing his wife of her hard-earned money. I sat in front of the computer, hands clenched so tight my knuckles turned white. The rage in me reached its peak, but I knew this wasn't the moment to act. I had to stay calm, collect more evidence not only to expose him, but to make him pay before the law. My play now had a new villain, and I knew I needed an even more perfect plan than theirs to defeat them. The shock of discovering Liam and Megan's embezzlement didn't derail me. On the contrary, it acted as a catalyst, making my determination stronger than ever. I was no longer an innocent lamb, waiting and suffering. I had transformed into a she-wolf, wounded, patiently waiting for the moment to counterattack. I knew I couldn't act alone against the devilish alliance of my husband, my sister-in-law, and a trusted employee. I needed stronger, more reliable allies. The first person I thought of was my own mother. My mother, Rebecca, was a retired teacher. Friendly, kind, but by no means weak. She had always taught me that a woman can sacrifice for others, but must never allow them to trample on her dignity. The next morning, I took an early train to visit her, without calling ahead. I wanted to surprise her. Her small house on the outskirts was as peaceful and warm as ever. When I appeared, looking haggard, she worried, but before she could ask, I hugged her tight, like a child seeking refuge in the safest place in the world. I told her everything. How I had been thrown out, Liam and Sophia's plot, and the audacious play directed by my mother-in-law. I showed her Mrs. Helen's letter and the evidence of the shell company. My mother listened in silence, her face shifting from concern to astonishment, then to indignation. When I finished, she said nothing, just squeezed my hand tightly. "My child, you have suffered so much," she said, her voice cracked. "From now on, you are not fighting alone. Mom is here." My mother's support was a balm, bringing me immense calm. But I knew love alone wasn't enough to win this legal battle. I needed someone who knew the law, who could turn my evidence into a sharp weapon. "Mom," I said, "I need a good lawyer." My mother nodded immediately. "I have an old friend. His name is Dr. Lincoln. He's a very well-known lawyer in Chicago, specializing in asset disputes and divorces. He is a direct and just man, and he hates liars. Let me call him right away." The meeting with Dr. Lincoln took place that same afternoon. He was a middle-aged man, tall, distinguished, with an incredibly sharp gaze. After examining all the documents, my mother-in-law's letter, the account statements, the information about Liam's shell company, I asked, "Dr. Lincoln, do you think this is enough evidence?" He interrupted me with a firm voice. "It is not only enough evidence for you to win the divorce and get back all your assets. but it is enough to file criminal charges against Liam for embezzlement and fraud. Even his sister Sophia and the accountant could be considered accomplices. He looked at me seriously. But the question is not whether we have enough evidence, but how far you want to go. Do you want to put your husband in prison? His question made me freeze. Put Liam in prison? I had never considered that. Despite all his cruelty, he was still the man I had once loved, my husband for 7 years. A part of me still hesitated. Seeing my silence, Dr. Lincoln continued, Jessica, I understand how you feel, but you must consider that misplaced pity is cruelty to yourself. Someone who feels nothing for you anymore, who betrayed you and stole the fruits of your labor, deserves no consideration. This fight is not only to get back what belongs to you, but to prevent them from continuing to deceive other women. The lawyer's words illuminated the dark corners of my mind. He was right. I couldn't be weak now. If I forgave Liam, it would be as if I were tolerating evil. I understand, I said, raising my head, my gaze determined. I want everything to be settled according to the law. Whoever has done wrong must face the consequences. Good, Dr. Lincoln said with satisfaction. Then let's start with the plan. For now, keep playing your role. Act pitiful, desperate. The more you do that, the more certain they will become of their victory. In the meantime, I will discreetly collect further evidence, especially witness statements from your company's employees to build the case. We will not attack immediately. We will wait for the perfect moment, when they least expect it, to deliver the final blow. Leaving the law firm, I felt a sense of absolute certainty. I had a clear plan, a defined strategy. I was no longer drifting. I returned to Karen's apartment and continued my role. I made myself appear frail, ate and slept little, spent the day with a vacant stare. Karen looked at me with pity, constantly encouraging me. I knew her concern was sincere, but I couldn't tell her the truth. The fewer people who knew about the act, the safer it was. The plan was risky, and I had to play the part of a broken woman perfectly. Meanwhile, Liam and Sophia were celebrating their victory elsewhere. My mother-in-law kept me updated. Liam had made his relationship with the model public, openly flaunting her at luxury restaurants. Sophia endlessly boasted on social media about designer clothes and exotic trips, all financed by her beloved brother. They were intoxicated by their success, oblivious to the invisible net slowly closing around them. I read my mother-in-law's messages, saw the photos of Liam and Sophia, and my heart remained calm. I felt only pity for them. They were happily dancing on the edge of an abyss without realizing it. My act continued. Every day I played the role of a failed, pitiful woman perfectly. I didn't contact Liam, showed no signs of resistance. My silence made him and his family completely careless. They believed I had accepted my fate, that I had given up, and that was exactly what I wanted. I needed them to be certain of their victory, of their arrogance, so that when I acted, they would have no time to react. One night, while I was alone in my room, the secret phone vibrated. A message from my mother-in-law. Sophia is celebrating her birthday. She's planning a big party at the most luxurious hotel in the city to introduce her new boyfriend and show off her status. Liam is paying for everything. A brilliant idea shot through my head. This was the moment I had been waiting for. A big party with all of Liam and Sophia's friends and business partners. The perfect stage to let the curtain fall on this play. I smiled, a cold smile in the darkness. Thank you, Sophia, for giving me such a good opportunity. Your birthday party will undoubtedly become an unforgettable memory. The plan for Sophia's special birthday gift took shape secretly between Dr. Lincoln and me. Time was tight, only 2 weeks, but with what we had, we were sure we could cause an earthquake. First, we needed to confirm the party details. I called my mother-in-law, maintaining my weak, pitiful tone. Mom, I whispered, I heard that next weekend is Sophia's birthday? Mrs. Helen's voice sounded as cold as ever, but I detected an undertone of satisfaction. Yes, she plans to celebrate big. She has invited hundreds of people to the Drake Hotel. Her boyfriend comes from a good family. She has to make a good impression. Liam is supporting her in everything, taking care of the organization from A to Z. "Oh dear," I said, faking sadness. "Can I come, Mom? After all, she is my sister-in-law." My mother-in-law laughed dryly. "What do you want to come for? So people can stare at you and whisper? Stay home and leave us in peace." I hung up and smiled. Everything was going according to plan. The less they wanted me to appear, the more effective my appearance would be. Meanwhile, Dr. Lincoln got to work. He sent an official request to my company, demanding in my name that the management, meaning me, cooperate by providing all ledgers and invoices from the last year for the divorce asset division. Of course, this was just a diversion, an act aimed directly at Megan, the head of accounting. After receiving the request, I called an urgent meeting and invited Megan and other department heads. I played the role of a weakened, worried, and powerless boss perfectly. I said my husband's lawyers were pressuring me, suspecting financial irregularities. I asked Megan to prepare all necessary documents. "Megan, please check everything carefully," I said, looking her directly in the eyes. "If they find any mistake, not only me, but the whole company will be in trouble." Megan seemed nervous, as expected, but tried to remain calm. She nodded and promised to check everything. I knew she would inform Liam immediately after the meeting, and that was exactly what I wanted. I wanted them to panic, to fear their schemes were about to be discovered. I wanted them to act on their own to cover up their crimes, and in doing so, they would make more mistakes. Indeed, my mother-in-law sent me another recording that same evening. This time, it was a tense phone conversation between Liam and Megan. "What do you mean his wife's lawyers want to check the accounts?" Megan's voice was a bundle of nerves. "We're ruined. If they discover the contracts with Northstar LLC." "Calm down." Liam's voice also sounded worried, but he tried to soothe her. "All the documents are legal. You just have to say they were real campaigns. Jessica understands nothing about marketing. What is she going to check? But listen carefully now. Do what I tell you. Under the pretext of year-end cleaning, destroy all physical copies of these contracts and delete the data from the computer too, so no trace remains. Do it and I'll take care of the rest. When this is over, I will reward you generously." The recording ended. I sat in silence. A deep, satisfied breath escaped me. They didn't know that all their steps were being watched. Dr. Lincoln smiled when he heard the recording. "Excellent. The destruction of evidence is a very valuable aggravating circumstance in court," he said. "Now we just have to wait for the party." In the following days, I continued playing my role as a broken woman. Under the pretext of health problems, I didn't go into the company, delegating everything to my department heads. I knew Megan was using the opportunity to put her plan into action. Secretly, I had installed remote data recovery software on the company server. Every deletion or change she made was registered. Meanwhile, Liam and Sophia were busy preparing their party of the century. They had no idea that it wasn't a birthday party, but a public trial where all their sins would be exposed. I also began to prepare for my appearance. I didn't need new clothes or flashy makeup. My weapon was not my beauty, but the truth. I just had to prepare myself mentally, to keep a cool head, to face the people who had mercilessly trampled on my life. I contacted a few close friends, those who had been with Liam and me from the beginning, and invited them to a special event on Saturday evening at the Drake Hotel. I gave them no details, just told them that they would see a very interesting play. The day of the party finally came. I looked in the mirror. I was no longer the tired, haggard Jessica. I had regained the demeanor of a confident and determined businesswoman. I chose a black dress, simple but elegant, an updo, and an intense red lipstick full of strength. My mother took my hand, her gaze full of trust. "Go, my child. It's time to let the curtain fall." I nodded, took a deep breath. That night, Chicago would not sleep. The Drake Hotel was a splendor of luxury and glitter that evening, like a fairy tale palace. The main hall was decorated with fresh flowers, balloons, cascades of crystal lights. Soft music mingled with laughter. Sophia, in a designer evening gown, stood by Liam's side. He was in an elegant white suit, holding the hand of a young, beautiful model he openly introduced as his new girlfriend. They looked like the perfect couple, happy and radiant. Anyone seeing them would have thought them an example of success and fulfillment. They were at the peak of their arrogance, unknowingly, while the abyss opened beneath their feet. I didn't enter the hall directly. With Dr. Lincoln and two notaries in plain clothes, I sat in a cafe on the ground floor, watching silently. My mother-in-law, Mrs. Helen, had also arrived. She continued to play her role as a simple woman from a small town, dressed plainly, sitting in a discreet corner, but I knew her sharp eyes were watching everything. According to the plan, we waited until exactly 8 p.m., when the party had started and all guests were present. It was time to raise the curtain. At 8 p.m., after Sophia's opening speech, full of boasting about her own success and the support of her wonderful brother, the host invited everyone to look at the big screen for a video of memorable moments from her last year. That was my moment. I stood up, adjusted my dress, took a deep breath, and calmly entered the hall with Dr. Lincoln and the two notaries. My sudden appearance drew all eyes. The music quieted, whispering spread. Everyone knew who I was. The useless, barren wife who had just been abandoned by her husband. They looked at me with a mixture of curiosity, pity, and even contempt. Liam and Sophia, standing on the stage, froze at the sight of me. The smiles vanished from their lips. Sophia's face went from radiant to pale, while Liam stammered, unable to speak. "Jessica, what are you doing here?" I didn't answer him. I just smiled, a broad, radiant smile, and walked directly onto the stage, taking the microphone from the baffled host's hand. "Excuse the interruption of the party." My voice sounded clear, powerful, echoing through the hall. "I am Jessica Miller, the lawful wife of Mr. Liam Carter." I let my gaze sweep through the audience, pausing at familiar faces, friends and partners who had worked with me. Today, on such a happy day for my sister-in-law, I also have a small gift, a special video that I want to dedicate to her and her beloved brother. Consider it my congratulations for this new chapter in your lives. With that, I signaled the video tech, whom Dr. Lincoln had instructed in advance. The lights in the hall dimmed, leaving only the glow of the big screen. The video began. It wasn't glamorous pictures of Sophia, but a photo of the old, dilapidated house in their hometown before the renovation, with the text, "Here's where the story begins." Afterwards, enlarged account statements appeared, one after another, clearly showing the sender's name, Jessica Miller, and the recipients, Liam Carter and Sophia Carter, with sums amounting to hundreds of thousands of dollars. A subtitle stated, "Money for the construction of the in-laws' house. Money for the 4 years of the sister-in-law studies in London. All from a parasitic wife." The hall went into an uproar, the whispering growing louder. The faces of Liam and Sophia went from white to purple. The video continued, showing screenshots of the transactions between my company and Liam's shell company, Northstar LLC. Fake contracts, fraudulent invoices. Everything was projected with crystal clarity. The following text appeared, "And this is how a wonderful husband responds. He embezzles almost $1 million of his wife's money to finance his mistress." Then images of Liam and the model being intimate in various places, from luxury restaurants to hotels. "Turn that off. Turn this garbage off immediately." Liam screamed, trying to climb onto the stage, but it was too late. Dr. Lincoln and the two notaries blocked his way. The video continued. This time it was the recording of the conversation between Liam and Megan, where they planned the destruction of evidence. Their voices sounded clear and undeniable. "Delete everything so that no trace remains." The hall exploded. Shouts, gasps, insults from all sides. People turned to Liam and Sophia with disbelief, disgust, and contempt. The model, Liam's new girlfriend, was stunned, her face pale as wax. She hadn't expected to be just a pawn in his game. The video ended with the image of the divorce papers Liam had thrown at me, with the pathetic severance pay and the demand, "You'll leave with nothing." The last text appeared on the screen like a verdict. "Justice may take time, but it always comes." The lights in the hall came on, and chaos erupted. Screams, Sophia's hysterical crying, the insults of guests who felt betrayed. The journalists we had notified rushed onto the stage, aiming their cameras at Liam and Sophia, bombarding them with questions. Mr. Carter, how do you explain this evidence? Miss Carter, did you know about your brother's fraudulent activities? The magnificent birthday party had turned into a public trial, a tragic comedy where the two main characters, Liam and Sophia, were judged by everyone. Amidst the confusion, I calmly put down the microphone and stepped off the stage. My mother-in-law, Mrs. Helen, was waiting for me there. She took my hand, her gaze a mixture of compassion and pride. Let's go, my child. The play is over. I nodded and calmly left the hall with my mother-in-law, leaving the ashes of lies and greed behind me. I didn't have to look back. I knew that from this night on, the lives of Liam and Sophia would never be the same again. The storm I had unleashed at the Drake Hotel had a far greater impact than I had imagined. That very night, the video of the birthday gift and the recordings of the chaos at the party spread on social media like wildfire. In a single night, Liam Carter went from being a successful sales manager to a fraudster and a villain condemned by society. Sophia Carter was exposed, going from a proud socialite to a public scandal, the hottest topic in every forum and conversation. The stock of the company Liam worked for plummeted. Partners canceled contracts, and friends and colleagues turned their backs on him. They lost everything in one night: career, reputation, and the relationships they were so proud of. The next morning, the police initiated an official investigation. With the evidence presented at the party and my report, Liam and Megan were brought in for questioning. A travel ban was immediately imposed, thwarting any escape plan. In the meantime, my mother-in-law and I did something strange. After the successful premiere, we didn't return to Karen's apartment or my mother's house. My mother-in-law organized a short trip to a resort at Lake Geneva. She said we needed to get out of the eye of the storm and let the law and public opinion do their work. And most importantly, I needed to rest and heal the deep wounds in my soul. For the first time in many years, I felt a true sense of freedom. I walked along the shore, listened to the sound of the water, and breathed the fresh mountain air. I didn't have to worry anymore, didn't have to plan, didn't have to act. I could just be myself. My mother-in-law, Mrs. Helen, also seemed to have a great burden lifted from her shoulders. She no longer had that strict, grumpy expression. She smiled and talked more, telling me about her youth, the difficulties and failures she had overcome. It became clear to me that behind the hard, cruel facade she had built was a woman who had also been hurt and had to fight alone. "I'm sorry, Jessica," she said suddenly one evening as we sat on the balcony, looking at the lake. "I was wrong to treat you like that. I was selfish. I only thought of my children and forgot that you were also my daughter." I took her wrinkled, but still warm hand. "I don't blame you, Mom. I understand. It's all over." "No, it's not over." She shook her head, her gaze becoming serious. "I must compensate you, and not just with money, but with something more." I didn't understand what she meant until we returned to Chicago, and she led me to a luxurious office building on Astor Street. She escorted me to the top floor and opened the door to an office with a brass plate that read, "Office of the President, Westwood Real Estate Group." I froze. The Westwood Group was one of the largest real estate conglomerates in the country, a formidable competitor to Liam's former firm. This is your company?" I stammered. "More precisely, it is the company my grandfather left me, and which I have managed in secret all these years without anyone knowing," said Mrs. Helen with a calm but proud voice. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. My mother-in-law, whom I thought was a simple housewife, was the president of a great empire. "Why? Why did you hide it?" "Because I wanted to test people, my child," she said, her gaze wandering into the distance. "I wanted to see how my own children would treat me if I had nothing. And I received my answer. They were only interested in my money, my property. Only you, Jessica. Only you treated me with a sincere heart, even when you thought I was just a grumpy old woman with nothing to offer." She turned to me, her gaze full of trust. "Jessica, I am old. I have no strength left to continue this. I want you to take my place. You have the talent, the courage, and most importantly, a noble heart. You will do it better than I. Her proposal was like a thunderclap. Me, president of the Westwood Group? It was unimaginable. But I have no experience in the real estate sector, I stammered. Business is business. The sector doesn't matter, child. She smiled tenderly. If you could build a chain of shops from scratch, there is no reason why you cannot lead this group. Besides, you won't be alone. You will have me and a team of the most loyal people by your side. I looked into my mother-in-law's eyes. I was no longer an abandoned wife, no pitiable victim. I had the chance to start over, to build an even brighter career than before. I took a deep breath. Yes, I said with a firm voice. I will not disappoint you. On that day, as I left the Westwood Group building, I knew that my life had turned a completely new page, full of challenges, but also full of promise. I would live not only for myself but to live up to my mother-in-law's trust and build a better future. And I knew that somewhere, when Liam and Sophia learned this news, they would regret it to their very core. But it was already too late. They themselves had destroyed everything they had. The news that Jessica Miller, the abandoned wife in the Liam Carter scandal, became the new president of the Westwood Group overnight caused an even greater shock than the hotel scandal. The Chicago business world held its breath. No one could believe that the woman they thought was a useless parasite had such an impressive background. Newspapers and news portals dedicated whole pages to me again. But this time it was not criticism or pity, but admiration and amazement. They called me the mysterious entrepreneur, the phoenix risen from the ashes. My face appeared on the front pages of renowned business magazines. My story became a source of inspiration for millions of women. I paid no attention to the flattery. I knew the path ahead was full of thorns. Taking over the leadership of a group like Westwood was no easy task. I had to learn to work 100, 1,000 times harder. I threw myself into work like a moth to a flame. During the day, there were meetings, project reviews, problem solving. At night, I studied financial reports and real estate market documents. My mother-in-law, Mrs. Helen, became my best advisor. She didn't intervene directly in the management, but her advice and valuable experience helped me enormously. She taught me to read people, to negotiate, to make bold but not reckless decisions. Little by little, I proved my worth. Under my leadership, the Westwood Group not only remained unaffected by the change but experienced spectacular growth. I boldly and effectively implemented new business strategies. New projects were successfully launched and generated enormous profits. The shareholders, initially skeptical, now trusted and supported me completely. In the meantime, the trial against Liam and his accomplices came to an end. Faced with irrefutable evidence and public outrage, the court imposed a very harsh sentence. Liam Carter was sentenced to 15 years in prison for fraud and embezzlement. Megan, the head of accounting, received 7 years for aiding and abetting. Sophia, although not directly involved in the embezzlement, was sentenced to 3 years of probation for her role as an instigator and beneficiary and had to pay back all the money she had spent. I did not attend the trial. I didn't want to see their defeated faces again. For me, all accounts had been settled that night at the hotel. I was told that Liam screamed and cursed at the sentencing, blaming me and my mother-in-law for everything. Sophia collapsed in the courtroom. Their family was completely finished. Their parents, seeing both their children involved in legal problems, had to sell their house in their hometown to pay for lawyers. But it was in vain. They paid a very high price for their greed and wickedness. One afternoon, just as I was about to leave the office, I received a call from an unknown number. It was my mother. Her voice sounded hesitant. Jessica, Liam's parents, they came to my house. I froze. What did they come for? They came to ask you for forgiveness, said my mother. They are kneeling and crying at the door, saying they were wrong and begging you to forgive them and save Liam. The neighbors have already gathered to watch. What should we do? I was silent for a moment. A mixture of emotions overcame me. Forgive them after everything they had done to me? Mom, I said with a controlled voice, please tell them that I do not decide Liam's fate. The law does, and that I do not have the power to forgive his mistakes. The only person they should ask for forgiveness from is their own conscience. Tell them to please go. I do not wish to see them. I hung up and leaned back in my chair. I am not a saint. I couldn't simply forgive those who had mercilessly trampled on my life. But I didn't hate them anymore either. They had paid their price. That was enough. Their life had nothing to do with mine from now on. I looked out the window. Twilight was descending over the city. Another day was coming to an end. I smiled. My life was only just really beginning. A life without lies, without hate, only with work, with my mother-in-law, and a promising future ahead of me. Life after the trial was busy but peaceful. I dedicated all my energy to leading the Westwood Group. Under my leadership, and with the advice of my mother-in-law, the company solidified its position as one of the pillars of the real estate sector. I didn't forget my fashion boutique chain either. I restructured it, opened more branches, and made my brand a name that young people loved. I was no longer a woman living in the shadow of her husband. I had become an independent, autonomous, and successful entrepreneur. I also dedicated more time to myself and my mother-in-law. We traveled together, went to spas, enjoyed good food. I realized that happiness is sometimes as simple as being with the people you love and doing the things you like. My relationship with Mrs. Helen became closer and closer. We were no longer mother-in-law and daughter-in-law, but truly mother and daughter. She was not only my mentor at work, but my confidant with whom I shared all my joys and sorrows. Sometimes she mentioned Liam and Sophia with a sigh. I knew she still felt the pain of a mother in her heart, but she never asked me to forgive or help them. She respected my decisions, my new life. One morning, while I was checking reports in my office, my secretary came in somewhat hesitantly. "Madam President, a person named Sophia Carter is asking to see you." It had been a long time since I had heard that name. Since the scandal, Sophia had vanished without a trace. She had quit her job and broken off all contact. Why was she looking for me now? "Let her in," I said calmly. I wanted to see what else she could want from me. Sophia entered. She looked completely changed. She was no longer the modern, confident executive. She was much thinner, her face haggard, her eyes sunken, and with an expression of fatigue and fear. She wore an old business suit that had lost its shine. When she saw me, she lowered her head, not daring to look at me. "Jessica," she murmured. "Sit down." I pointed to a chair. "What do you want?" Sophia hesitated for a moment and suddenly knelt before me, bursting into tears. "Jessica, I'm sorry. I know I have no right to ask you for forgiveness, but I regret it so much. I beg you, please save me." I was stunned by her act. "Stand up. If you have something to say it calmly." I didn't want to seem magnanimous, but I also didn't want to witness this humiliating scene. After a while, Sophia calmed down and told me her story. It turned out that after Liam's scandal, his mistress, the model, had quickly fled with a large sum of money that Liam had embezzled. She had fled the country and left Sophia alone to face the consequences. Sophia had been implicated as a friend and accomplice. Although her sentence was lighter than Liam's and Megan's, her reputation in the financial world was ruined. No company wanted to hire her. She lived as an outcast, despised by everyone. "I lost everything, Jessica," she said, sobbing. "Career, friends, honor. Nothing is left. For months, I've been doing menial jobs to survive. I can't go on. Give me a chance to rebuild my life." She looked at me, her eyes full of pleading. "I know I don't deserve it, but I beg you." I looked at her silently. An indescribable feeling overcame me. Should I forgive the woman who, along with others, had stabbed me in the back? But then I saw a reflection of myself in her. The image of a woman who had also lost everything, who had been at the bottom of despair. If it hadn't been for my mother-in-law, perhaps I wouldn't have been able to get back up either. "Stand up," I said, my voice softening. "I don't want to dwell on the past. We all make mistakes. The important thing is knowing how to regret them." Sophia looked up, her eyes widening with hope. "Does that mean you?" "I didn't say I forgive you," I interrupted her. "Betrayal can't be erased so easily, but I can give you a chance. I took out a business card and wrote an address on it. This is the address of a social center that the Westwood Group sponsors. They need an accountant. It's not a glamorous job and the salary isn't high, but it's enough for you to start over. Go there and use your talent to help people in need. Consider it a form of reparation for your mistakes. Sophia took the card, her hands trembling. She couldn't say anything, only bowed her head. Tears of remorse ran down her cheeks. As she left, I followed her stooped figure with my gaze and felt a sense of lightness. I realized that the sweetest revenge is not making your enemy suffer, but having the generosity to leave them a way out so they can face their own conscience. And even more important is being able to transform the pain of the past into something meaningful to help others. On that day, I learned a true lesson about forgiveness. Life after forgiving Sophia seemed to enter a new chapter, lighter and more serene. The burden of the past had completely evaporated. I focused on my work and on taking care of my mother-in-law. Under my leadership, the Westwood Group solidified its position in the market. We not only built luxury real estate projects but also led social initiatives. The Sunflower Foundation, which I founded myself, helped hundreds of female entrepreneurs and created a strong wave of female empowerment and independence. I became a role model and inspiration for many. But deep in my heart, I felt that something was missing. I had a career, money, fame, but no real home. The huge mansion, although I had my mother-in-law with me, sometimes felt empty. I longed for a child, a little being I could love and take care of to make my life complete. But after everything that had happened, I no longer believed in love. I didn't want to put my life in a man's hands again. I thought about adoption, but my mother-in-law had another idea. One evening, while we were watching a romance movie, she suddenly asked me, "Jessica, have you thought about marrying again?" I was surprised by her question. "Mom, what are you saying?" "No, I haven't thought about that." "Why?" She looked at me tenderly. "You are young, pretty, intelligent. You deserve to be happy, to have a man by your side who loves and protects you. Not all men are like Liam." "But I'm afraid, Mom," I confessed. "Afraid of being cheated on again, of being hurt." She took my hand. "I understand that, but you can't close your heart forever because of one bad experience. Give yourself a chance and give it to someone else. There is someone I want you to meet. He is a very good man." I never thought my mother-in-law would become my matchmaker. The man she introduced to me was Michael, the son of one of her deceased best friends. He was a pediatrician, 5 years older than me, divorced and raising his little daughter alone. I had seen him a few times at family gatherings. My impression was of a quiet man who spoke little, with a friendly smile and a very warm gaze. At my mother-in-law's insistence, Michael and I started seeing each other. Initially, it was just coffees and casual conversations. But gradually, I felt attracted by his sincerity, his understanding, and his good heart. He didn't use beautiful words and didn't give me expensive gifts. He was simply there for me, listening to me and comforting me when I was tired. He also told me about his past marriage, about the pain and difficulties of raising a daughter alone. By his side, I felt at peace and could be myself. I didn't have to pretend to be strong or hide my wounds. He loved the real Jessica, with my strengths and my weaknesses. Lily, his daughter, was a lovable and affectionate girl. She quickly grew to love me. Every weekend, the three of us went to the park, to the cinema, or to get ice cream. Seeing the innocent smile of the child filled my heart with a warmth I longed for, the desire to be a mother. One afternoon while we were in the park, Lily ran up to me, hugged me, and said, "Auntie Jessica, can I call you Mom?" Her words took my breath away. Tears came to my eyes. I held her tightly and nodded happily. "Of course, my child." Michael, who stood next to us, looked at us with shining eyes, full of emotion. He came closer, knelt down, and took out a small velvet box. Inside was a simple but exquisite diamond ring. "Jessica, will you marry me?" he said with a sincere and warm voice. "I don't promise you the material wealth you already have, but I promise you something you have always looked for. A family, a true home, a place with me, Lily, and unconditional love." I didn't hesitate anymore. I nodded and offered him my hand so he could put the ring on it. A tear of happiness rolled down my cheek. After so many storms, I had finally found my safe haven. Our wedding was simple but cozy, on the coast of Maine, with only family and closest friends. My mother and my mother-in-law, the two grandmothers, held hands and smiled radiantly. Lily, in a beautiful princess dress, was the flower girl for her own parents. In the moment of the ring exchange under the spectacular sunset, I knew I had found true happiness. A happiness that did not come from money or fame, but from sincerity, understanding, and true love. Life after the wedding with Michael was a sweet and quiet dream. We moved into the mansion on the Gold Coast. The house, which was once cold, now overflowed with Lily's laughter and the warmth of a real family. Michael was a wonderful husband and father. He loved me deeply and took care of Lily devotedly. He helped her with homework, played with her, and read stories to her before bed. His love gradually healed the girl's wounds and helped her become more cheerful and confident. I also found happiness in my role as a mother. I learned to cook Lily's favorite dishes. I decorated her room like a princess castle. I spent time talking with her and sharing secrets. The unconditional love I gave her was also the medicine for my own scars. My mother-in-law, Mrs. Helen, was thrilled with my new family. She treated Michael like a son and Lily like her granddaughter. Every weekend we all met, cooked together, and watched movies. This warm and happy atmosphere was what I had longed for so long. My work at the Westwood Group continued to be demanding, but I learned to balance my professional and family life. I was no longer obsessed with work. I knew that the greatest success of a woman is not how much money she earns, but building a happy family. One afternoon, I received a call from the prison at my office. It was Liam. I hadn't heard from him in a long time. I hesitated, but then picked up. "Jessica, it's me." His voice sounded hoarse and tired. "Thanks," I answered calmly. "Are you calling about something specific?" "No, nothing special. I just wanted to ask for your forgiveness one more time. I know it's too late, but I really regret it. In here, I've had a lot of time to think. I was wrong in an unforgivable way. I destroyed my own happiness. I lost the best woman in the world." I listened silently. My heart remained calm. "I also feel guilty because of my mother," he continued with a cracked voice. "I am a bad son. I wasn't by her side when she needed me most. If you can, please take care of her for me and also of my parents. They are already old and have suffered a lot. I know I have no right to ask you this, but—" "You don't need to say more," I interrupted him. "I will take care of your parents. You focus on getting better. That is the best way to make up for your mistakes." I hung up. I felt no anger anymore, only pity. He had paid a very high price for his mistakes. A few days later, I visited the old and simple neighborhood where his parents lived. After the scandal, they had to sell everything and return to their old house. I stood before the peeling wooden door with a strange feeling. I knocked. Liam's mother opened. When she saw me, she froze, her eyes full of surprise and shame. She had aged a lot. She no longer had that proud and bitter aura. "Jessica, what are you doing here?" she stammered. "I came to visit you." I smiled, a smile without resentment. I entered the small house, which was untidy and smelled of dampness. His father lay on a folding bed. After a stroke, he had remained paralyzed on one side. When he saw me, he tried to sit up with tear-filled eyes. I placed a fruit basket and an envelope on the table. "I brought you a little something. Here is some money so you can make ends meet. I also contacted a good rehab center. They will come to your home to help him with his exercises." Liam's mother burst into tears. Tears of late remorse. "Jessica, we did you so much wrong. We don't deserve this. The past is the past," I said sincerely. "I'm not doing it for you. I'm doing it for Liam. After all, he was my husband, and I'm also doing it for myself. I don't want to live with hate." I left there with a light heart. I realized that forgiving not only frees the other person but also frees yourself. Only when you let go of the past can you find peace and happiness. A year after our wedding, Our small family welcomed a new member, a beautiful boy, the spitting image of Michael. The arrival of little Leo brought us complete happiness. The mansion was always filled with the laughter of the two children. Lily became a wonderful big sister who adored and spoiled her brother. Seeing them play together filled my heart with warmth and gratitude. I thanked life for the opportunity to be a mother, to experience this sacred and unconditional love. I continued my work at the Westwood Group, but learned to organize my time more efficiently. I delegated more to my employees. I wanted to spend more time with my family, with Michael and the children, because I understood that no career can replace the happiness of home. Michael remained an exemplary husband and father, my rock in every storm, at work and in life. My mother-in-law, Mrs. Helen, retired completely and dedicated her time to looking after her two grandchildren. Her joy was seeing them grow up healthy and happy. The Sunflower Foundation grew into an organization of great influence, a home for thousands of female entrepreneurs all over the country. I no longer led it directly, but had passed the torch to the new generation and acted only as a mentor and source of inspiration. Sometimes I received news from Liam's family. His parents lived a modest and quiet life in their hometown. Liam got out of prison on probation after a few years of good conduct. He became a quiet and reserved man. He stayed in his town, found a normal job, and started over. He never contacted me again. Sophia, for her part, also changed. She led a discreet life, and as I learned, she had married and started a family. Maybe she too finally found her way. One weekend afternoon, the whole family was in the garden. Michael and Lily were playing on the lawn. My mother-in-law and I sat on the porch swing with little Leo in my arms and watched the sunset. "Are you happy, Jessica?" my mother-in-law asked me suddenly. I smiled and leaned my head on her shoulder. "I am very happy, Mom. I have never felt so happy and at peace." "Me too," she said with a gaze that lingered on the horizon. "My life had many storms. I thought I would never find happiness. But then you came and brought light and hope. Thank you, my daughter." I hugged her, overwhelmed by emotions. My journey hadn't been easy. I had fallen, suffered, been desperate. But I hadn't given up. I had risen again, stronger and more resilient, and had finally found happiness. True happiness. I looked at Michael and the laughing children, my mother-in-law smiling by my side, and I realized that life is like a painting with its light and dark sides. The important thing is knowing how to walk through the darkness to find and paint your own bright colors. And I had found the color palette of my life. What a wild ride, right? My life went from absolute rock bottom to a place I never imagined. Have you ever experienced a betrayal so profound it changed your entire direction? Or found an ally in the most unexpected person? Tell me what you think. I'd love to hear your perspective in the comments below.